Lisa Martinez stepped off the transport ship and looked up at the massive towers of the Galactic Military Academy. The buildings reached high into the purple sky of Arcturus Prime, their metal surfaces gleaming in the light of the twin suns. She had dreamed of this moment for years, but now that she was here, she felt very small. The academy was huge. Students from dozens of different alien species walked around the grounds. Lisa saw tall reptilian creatures with scales that looked like armor. Their eyes were cold and yellow, and they moved with the confidence of born warriors. These were the Draknari, and everyone knew they were the best fighters in the galaxy. Near the main building, a group of insect-like beings buzzed through the air. Their wings moved so fast they were just a blur. The Zephyrians were known for their incredible speed. They could move faster than most eyes could follow and strike before their enemies even knew they were there. By the training grounds, massive crystalline beings practiced with energy weapons. Their bodies looked like they were made of living rock and crystal. The Vorthak were nearly impossible to hurt, and they could control energy in ways that seemed like magic. When they fought, the ground itself seemed to shake. Lisa walked toward the registration building carrying her single bag. She was 22 years old, average height, with brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Compared to the impressive aliens around her, she looked very ordinary. Several Draknari glanced at her and made sounds that might have been laughter. She ignored them and kept walking. The registration process was quick. Lisa received her room assignment, her schedule, and her uniform. The academy uniform was simple, dark blue with silver trim. It looked the same on everyone, no matter what species they were. She also received her standard-issue pulse rifle, a sleek weapon that could fire both energy bolts and solid projectiles. Her first class was Combat Training 101, taught by Commander Jake Stevens. Lisa had heard about Stevens before coming to the academy. He was a human who had earned respect even from the alien instructors. That was not easy to do. The training room was enormous, with movable walls and floors that could create any kind of battlefield. About 50 students stood in formation, waiting for class to begin. Lisa found a spot near the back and stood at attention. Commander Stevens entered the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands that spoke of many battles. His uniform was perfectly pressed and his boots made sharp sounds on the metal floor. He looked at each student carefully, his eyes missing nothing. "Today we begin your real education," Stevens said. His voice carried clearly through the room. "Everything you think you know about fighting, forget it. You are no longer fighting for your home world or your species. You are training to fight for all worlds and all species." He gestured to the training area. "Your first exercise is simple. Target elimination. You will work in mixed teams. Humans with Draknari, Zephyrians with Vorthak. Learn to work together or fail together." The students formed into groups. Lisa found herself with 3 Draknari warriors. Their leader was a massive creature named Vex Thornscale. His scales were dark red, almost black, and old battle scars marked his arms and chest. He looked at Lisa like she was something unpleasant he had stepped on. "Great," Vex said to his companions. "We get the weak human. This will slow us down." Lisa said nothing. She checked her rifle and took position at the edge of their formation. As she moved into her stance, the other students began to notice. Her position was unlike anything they had seen before. She knelt on one knee, her body angled, her rifle held in a very specific way. "What is that supposed to be?" One of the Zephyrians buzzed. "Is she broken?" "Look at how she holds her weapon," a Vorthak rumbled. No power in that stance, no strength. More students gathered around to look. Soon half the class was staring at Lisa and her strange position. Some pointed and made comments in their own languages. The universal translator made sure she understood every mocking word. "That is the most primitive fighting stance I have ever seen," Vex announced loudly. "Humans really are as backward as everyone says. How did they even get into the academy?" Lisa adjusted her grip slightly and settled her breathing. Her rifle was perfectly steady, despite the uncomfortable position it appeared to be in. She had been holding rifles this way since she was 12 years old. Her mother had taught her, just as her grandmother had taught her mother. Commander Stevens walked through the groups, checking each team's formation. When he reached Lisa's group, he stopped. He looked at her position for a long moment. His expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. He made a note on his electronic pad and moved on without saying anything. "Even the instructor can see how useless that is," Vex laughed. "He's probably marking points off already." The exercise began. Holographic targets appeared throughout the training area. Some moved, some were stationary, and some only appeared for a few seconds before vanishing. The goal was simple: eliminate as many targets as possible in 15 minutes. The alien students charged forward, each using their natural abilities. The Draknari smashed through obstacles with their armored bodies. The Zephyrians flew above the battlefield, striking quickly. The Vorthak slowly advanced, their crystal bodies glowing as they charged their energy weapons. Lisa did not move from her position. "Come on," Vex shouted at her. "We need to advance. You cannot fight from back there." But Lisa stayed where she was. Her rifle tracked smoothly from target to target, but she did not fire. She seemed to be waiting for something. The other students in her group grew more frustrated by the minute. "She is useless," one of Vex's companions growled. "She is just sitting there while we do all the work." The exercise continued. Targets appeared and disappeared. The alien students fought hard, but the moving targets were difficult to hit. Their powerful weapons were designed for close combat, not precision shooting. Many shots missed their marks. Lisa finally began to fire. Her first shot took down a target that was barely visible through a small window. Her second eliminated a moving target that the Zephyrians had been chasing for several minutes. Her third, fourth, and fifth shots came in quick succession, each one hitting a different target with perfect accuracy. By the end of the exercise, Lisa had eliminated more targets than the rest of her team combined. She had done it all from the same position, never moving more than a few feet from where she started. The training room fell silent. The alien student stared at the score display in disbelief. Commander Stevens looked at Lisa with something that might have been approval, but he still said nothing. Vex Thornscale walked over to Lisa as she stood up from her position. His yellow eyes were narrow with confusion and anger. "How?" he demanded. "How did you hit targets we could not even see?" Lisa shouldered her rifle and looked at him calmly. "I used my eyes," she said simply. "And I waited for the right moment." She walked toward the exit, leaving behind a group of very confused aliens and one human instructor who was beginning to smile. 3 days passed since the first training exercise. Word had spread through the academy about Lisa's unusual performance, but most students dismissed it as beginner's luck. The alien cadets were sure that real combat would show her true weakness. The second major exercise was announced during the morning assembly. Commander Stevens stood at the front of the Great Hall, his uniform as perfect as always. Behind him, a holographic display showed a complex urban environment, tall buildings, narrow streets, and multiple levels. "Your next test will be urban warfare," Stevens announced. "This is not target practice. This is combat simulation with full sensory feedback. If you are hit, you will feel it. If you fail, your team fails with you." The holographic city rotated slowly, showing its maze-like structure. "Your mission is hostage rescue. Enemy forces have taken control of a civilian center. You must eliminate all hostile targets and rescue the civilians without casualties. You have 2 hours." Lisa listened carefully, already studying the building layouts. Her mind automatically identified good positions: high windows, clear sight lines, covered approaches. It was something she did without thinking, like breathing. "Teams will be mixed species as before," Stevens continued. "However, leadership will rotate. Today, the Draknari will lead." Vex Thornscale stood straighter when his name was called as a team leader. He was assigned 4 other students, 2 Zephyrians, 1 Vorthak, and Lisa. When he saw Lisa's name on his roster, his face showed clear displeasure. "Perfect," he muttered. The weak human again. The team gathered in the preparation room. Vex spread a map of the target building on the table and began planning their assault. The building was 12 stories tall, with the hostages held on the 8th floor. Enemy forces were scattered throughout the structure. "We go in fast and hard," Vex announced. "Crix and Zara will use their speed to clear the lower floors." He pointed to the 2 Zephyrians. "Gornax will break through any heavy resistance." The Vorthak nodded, his crystal body already beginning to glow with stored energy. "What about me?" Lisa asked quietly. Vex barely looked at her. "You stay in the back and try not to get in our way. Maybe watch for enemies we miss." Lisa studied the building plans while Vex continued talking. She noticed something the others had missed. The 8th floor had large windows facing east, and there was another building nearby with a clear view. The distance would be about 400 meters, a challenging shot but possible. "There might be another approach," she said. "We have our plan." Vex cut her off. Humans always want to make things complicated. Simple and direct works best. The exercise began 30 minutes later. The team approached the target building through simulated city streets. The environment felt completely real. Lisa could smell smoke from damaged vehicles and hear the distant sounds of combat. As they reached the building, Vex's plan immediately hit problems. The enemy had fortified the ground floor heavily. The Zephyrian's speed meant nothing when every doorway was covered by multiple weapons. Gornax's crystal armor could absorb damage, but even he slowed under concentrated fire. "We need more firepower," Vex growled into his communicator. "The entrance is too well defended." Lisa had positioned herself across the street using her rifle's scope to study the building. She could see enemy positions that the others could not reach. Window after window showed the muzzle flashes of hostile weapons. "I can take out some of the defenders from here," she offered. "Negative," Vex replied. "We need you with the team for backup." But the team was not making progress. After 20 minutes of fighting, they had barely reached the second floor. The Zephyrians were pinned down, and Gornax was taking heavy damage even through his armor. Lisa made a decision. She moved to a better position without telling the others. From her new spot, she had clear shots at several enemy windows. She began firing, her shots precise and methodical. One by one, the enemy positions that were blocking her teammates went silent. A sniper on the fourth floor who had been keeping Crix pinned suddenly stopped firing. A heavy weapons team on the third floor that was overwhelming Gornax's defenses disappeared. "What is happening?" Vex's voice crackled over the radio. "The resistance is decreasing." "Someone is taking out their snipers," Crix buzzed excitedly. "I can advance now." Lisa continued her systematic elimination of long-range threats. She did not take risky shots or waste ammunition. Each shot was carefully planned and perfectly executed. Her teammates began moving faster through the building as the covering fire disappeared. By the 40th minute, they had reached the 6th floor. But Vex was growing suspicious about their sudden success. "Martinez," he called over the radio. "Report your position." "Providing overwatch," Lisa replied simply. "I gave you an order to stay with the team. You told me to watch for enemies you missed. That is what I am doing." Vex wanted to argue, but they were making too much progress to stop now. The team pushed forward to the 7th floor, then the 8th. The hostages were found exactly where intelligence had indicated. 12 civilians huddled in what had been a conference room. But as they prepared to extract the hostages, new problems appeared. Enemy reinforcements were arriving from outside the building. Vehicles full of hostile forces surrounded the structure, cutting off their escape route. "We are trapped," Gornax rumbled. "Too many enemies outside. Can you deal with the vehicles?" Vex asked over the radio. Lisa studied the scene through her scope. 3 armored vehicles and approximately 20 enemy soldiers. They were positioned to cover all exits from the building. It would be a difficult engagement, but not impossible. "I need 2 minutes," she said. 2 minutes for what? You cannot take on 20 enemies by yourself. But Lisa was already working. Her first shot disabled the gunner on the lead vehicle. Her second shot took out the commander who was coordinating the attack. Her third and fourth shots eliminated the 2 soldiers operating portable missile launchers. The enemy force began to panic as their leaders and key weapons operators fell to invisible shots. They could not see where the fire was coming from. Some began shooting at random windows, wasting ammunition on empty rooms. Lisa continued her methodical work. She did not try to eliminate every enemy soldier. That would take too much time and ammunition. Instead, she focused on the ones who posed the greatest threat or who were trying to organize a response. Within 90 seconds, the organized enemy resistance had collapsed. The remaining soldiers were confused and scattered. Vex's team was able to escort the hostages out of the building and reach the extraction point without further resistance. The exercise ended with a success rating of 94%, one of the highest scores recorded that semester. As the simulation shut down and the holographic city disappeared, the team gathered in the debriefing room. "Excellent work," Commander Stevens said as he reviewed their performance. "Clean execution, minimal casualties, successful rescue." Vex stood proudly, ready to accept praise for his leadership. But Stevens was looking at his datapad with a puzzled expression. "Interesting," the commander said slowly. "According to the computer records, 60% of enemy eliminations came from a single shooter. All long-range, single-shot kills. He looked up at the team. Martinez, explain your tactics. Lisa stood at attention. I provided overwatch and eliminated high-priority targets that threatened team movement and civilian safety. From how far? Ranges varied from 100 to 500 meters. The room fell silent. Even the alien instructors who had been observing the exercise looked surprised. Shots at 500 meters required exceptional skill, even with advanced weapons. Vex stared at Lisa with a mixture of confusion and growing respect. You were not with the team. How did you know which targets to prioritize? I watched the battlefield and eliminated threats in order of importance, Lisa said simply. I could see what you needed before you asked for it. Stevens nodded slowly. That kind of tactical awareness and shooting precision, it takes years to develop. As the team left the debriefing room, Crix flew alongside Lisa. Where did you learn to shoot like that? The Zephyrian asked. My mother taught me, Lisa replied. She said every shot should count. Behind them, Vex walked in thoughtful silence. He was beginning to understand that there might be more to human combat doctrine than he had assumed. The question was whether he was ready to admit he had been wrong. The news of Lisa's performance spread through the academy like wildfire. But instead of earning respect, it seemed to make the alien students angry. In the dining hall, conversation stopped when she walked by. Groups of Draknari, Zephyrians, and Vorthak whispered among themselves, their voices filled with frustration. Lisa sat alone at a small table, eating her meal quietly. She had expected some reaction, but not this level of hostility. Across the room, she could hear fragments of conversation. It makes no sense, a Draknari was saying. Humans are weak. Everyone knows this. Maybe their weapons are different, a Zephyrian buzzed. Maybe they have better technology. I examined her rifle, a Vorthak rumbled. Standard academy issue, same as everyone else. Lisa finished her meal and left the dining hall. As she walked through the corridors, she noticed that other human students were getting cold looks too. It seemed the alien cadets thought all humans might be hiding similar abilities. The next major exercise was announced the following week. This time, it would be a large-scale battlefield simulation involving multiple teams. The scenario was a planetary assault, one side defending a fortified position, the other attacking across open ground. When team assignments were posted, Lisa discovered something that did not surprise her. She was grouped with other human students. All the alien cadets had requested teams without humans. They wanted to prove that Lisa's success was just luck, and they could do better without any human help. Lisa's team consisted of 4 humans total. Besides herself, there was Amy Chen, a pilot training specialist. Bobby Kim was studying engineering and technical systems. Carlos Rivera was training as a field medic. None of them were considered combat specialists by academy standards. The alien instructors seemed amused by this arrangement. They assigned the human team what everyone considered an impossible task. They had to assault and capture a heavily fortified hill position that dominated the entire battlefield. Previous teams had tried the same objective in training scenarios and failed repeatedly. This should be interesting, Lisa heard one of the Draknari instructors say to another. Let us see what the humans do when they cannot rely on luck. The battlefield was a rocky landscape with little cover. The target was a hilltop fort surrounded by defensive positions. Long-range sensors showed at least 30 enemy units defending the position, with heavy weapons and energy shields. The other teams had tried direct assault, using speed and overwhelming force. The Draknari charged straight up the hill. The Zephyrians attempted to fly over the defenses. The Vorthak tried to absorb the defensive fire and push through. All had failed. Lisa studied the battlefield through her rifle scope while her teammates prepared their equipment. Amy Chen checked her portable drone controller. Bobby Kim assembled sensor equipment that could detect enemy positions. Carlos Rivera organized medical supplies and emergency gear. What are you thinking? Amy asked Lisa. They are expecting another direct attack, Lisa said slowly. Every team has tried to overpower the defenses. So what do we do differently? Lisa pointed to a ridge line about 800 meters from the fort. It was not the closest position, but it had clear sight lines to the defensive emplacements. I can provide support from there, but I need you to keep their attention focused elsewhere. Bobby looked at the distance through his own scope. 800 meters? That is an extremely long shot. It is manageable, Lisa said quietly. The exercise began at dawn. Amy launched her drone to scout the enemy positions while Bobby's sensors mapped their defensive layout. Carlos stayed close to Lisa, ready to provide medical support if needed. From their position on the ridge, Lisa could see everything. The fort's defenders were well positioned and heavily armed. Their weapons could cover all the obvious approach routes. Any direct assault would fail quickly and badly, but Lisa was not planning a direct assault. Her first shot eliminated the enemy's long-range sensor operator. The defender simply disappeared from his position, and suddenly the enemy's early warning system was blind. They could no longer see attacks coming from a distance. Her second shot took out the commander of the defensive position. Lisa had identified him by watching how the other defenders looked to him for orders. With their leader gone, the defensive coordination began to break down. Amy's voice crackled over the radio. They are starting to panic. Their communications seemed confused. Lisa continued her methodical work. She did not try to eliminate every defender. That would take too much time and ammunition. Instead, she targeted key personnel, weapons specialists, communications operators, anyone who seemed to be organizing a response. After 20 minutes of this invisible assault, the fort's defenses were in chaos. The remaining defenders were shooting at shadows, wasting ammunition on empty ground. They knew they were under attack, but they could not figure out where the shots were coming from. "Now," Lisa said into her radio. Amy launched her attack drone directly at the fort's main gate. It was a small target, easily destroyed, but it gave the defenders something to shoot at. All their remaining firepower focused on the tiny drone. Bobby activated electronic jamming equipment, disrupting the defenders' communications completely. Now they could not coordinate even basic responses. Carlos began advancing up the hill, moving from cover to cover. He was not attacking. He was drawing attention and creating confusion about where the real threat was coming from. Lisa used this distraction to eliminate the fort's heavy weapons operators. One by one, the big guns fell silent. The defenders found themselves with only personal weapons against an enemy they could not see or locate. The final phase took only 10 minutes. With their heavy weapons gone and their communications jammed, the remaining defenders abandoned their positions. They retreated deeper into the fort, leaving the outer defenses unmanned. Lisa's team advanced quickly and captured the objective with 0 casualties. The exercise observers fell silent as the results appeared on their displays. The human team had succeeded where every other team had failed. They had done it in less than an hour, with minimal ammunition expenditure and perfect tactical coordination. Commander Stevens arrived at the hilltop position as the simulation ended. He looked around at the abandoned defensive positions, then at Lisa's team. "Explain your tactics," he said to Lisa. "Precision elimination of key personnel and equipment," Lisa replied, followed by coordinated disruption and misdirection. Stevens walked to the ridge where Lisa had taken her shots. He looked through his own scope at the distances involved. His eyebrows raised slightly. "Show me your rifle," he said. Lisa handed over her weapon. Stevens examined it carefully. The scope settings, the ammunition type, the modifications. It was completely standard Academy equipment. 800 meters with this rifle, Stevens said slowly. "In-field conditions. Multiple moving targets." "Yes, sir." Stevens handed the rifle back and looked at Lisa for a long moment. Then he activated his communicator and spoke to the observing instructors. "All teams to the assembly area for debriefing." Immediately, 20 minutes later, every cadet and instructor in the exercise stood in the main briefing room. The alien students looked confused and frustrated. They had all failed their objectives while the weakest team had succeeded completely. Stevens stood at the front of the room, his expression serious. Behind him, recordings of the exercise played on the main display. The footage showed Lisa's shots from multiple angles, impossible shots that found their targets with perfect accuracy. "What you have just witnessed," Stevens said to the room, "is not luck. It is not superior equipment. It is specialized training that most of you do not understand." He pointed to the display, which now showed Lisa's shooting position and the distances involved. "Form and technique like that," Stevens continued, his voice carrying clearly through the silent room. "Only snipers achieve that level of precision." The word hit the alien cadets like a physical blow. Snipers were legendary figures in galactic warfare. Soldiers who could eliminate targets from impossible distances, who could change the outcome of entire battles with a single shot. Most species considered them myths or exaggerations. The human military doctrine includes specialized roles that other species have not developed, Stevens explained. While you focus on strength, speed, or energy manipulation, humans have learned patience, precision, and the art of the perfect shot. Vex Thornscale stood up slowly. You are saying she is a sniper? A real sniper? I am saying she has been trained in sniper techniques since childhood. What you saw today was not her full capability. It was her holding back to match Academy limitations. The room erupted in surprised voices. Alien cadets who had mocked Lisa's rifle position suddenly understood they had been watching a master at work. Stevens raised his hand for silence. This is why the Academy exists. Not to prove which species is strongest, but to learn from each other. The Dragnari have strength. The Zephyrians have speed. The Vorthak have energy control. And humans have precision. Lisa remained standing at attention, but she could feel every eye in the room on her. The mockery was gone, replaced by something she had never expected. Respect. Tomorrow, Stevens announced, we begin combined tactics training. You will learn how precision fire support enhances every other combat style. Class dismissed. The Academy buzzed with activity the next morning. Word about Lisa's demonstration had reached every corner of the facility. Students who had ignored humans for weeks now watched them with curious eyes. In the corridors, alien cadets whispered questions to each other about human combat methods. Lisa found herself surrounded by students during breakfast. Zephyrians hovered nearby, their wings creating a soft humming sound. Dragnari warriors leaned forward with interest instead of contempt. Even the usually distant Vorthak had moved closer to listen. Is it true that all humans can shoot like that? Asked Kara, a young Zephyrian pilot. No, Lisa replied honestly. It takes years of training. Not everyone has the patience for it. How young were you when you started? This question came from Zix, a Dragnari engineer. 12, Lisa said. My mother began teaching me basic marksmanship when I was old enough to hold a rifle safely. The aliens exchanged glances. Most of their species began combat training much later, focusing on developing their natural physical advantages first. 12 years old, Gornax the Vorthak rumbled thoughtfully. That is, very young to begin weapons training. On Earth, marksmanship is often taught as a discipline before it becomes a weapon skill, Lisa explained. Breathing control, patience, concentration. These things help in many areas of life. Commander Stevens arrived in the dining hall before the questions could continue. Martinez, report to briefing room 7. The rest of you prepare for standard morning exercises. Lisa followed Stevens through corridors she had never seen before. They passed through security doors that required special clearance. Finally, they arrived at a conference room where several high-ranking officers waited. General Patricia Wells stood at the head of the table. Lisa recognized her from Academy orientation. She was the highest-ranking human officer in the Galactic Defense Force. Beside her sat Admiral Zorth, an elderly Dragnari with silver scales, and Commander Thys, a senior Zephyrian with scars on her wings. Cadet Martinez, General Wells said as Lisa entered. Please sit down. Lisa took the indicated seat, wondering what she had done wrong. The officers looked serious and their attention made her nervous. You have caused quite a stir, Admiral Zorth said. His voice was deep and measured. The other instructors are asking questions about human training methods. Questions we probably should have answered long ago, Commander Thys added, her wings rustling with what might have been embarrassment. General Wells activated a holographic display. It showed a map of Earth, then zoomed in to show various military training facilities. The galactic community has made assumptions about human military capabilities based on our recent entry into interstellar politics. Those assumptions appear to be incomplete. She touched a control and the display changed to show historical data. Earth has been at war with itself for most of recorded history. This has driven us to develop military specializations that other species never needed. Lisa watched the display show images of human soldiers throughout history. Ancient archers, medieval crossbowmen, and modern snipers. The progression was clear. Humans had always sought ways to eliminate threats from a distance with precision, rather than raw power. Other species developed their military doctrines based on their natural advantages, Admiral Zorth observed. We Dragnari are strong and tough, so we fight up close. Zephyrians are fast, so they strike quickly and withdraw. Vorthak can absorb tremendous damage, so they advance steadily under fire. But humans, Commander Theiss said, humans are not naturally stronger or faster or tougher than their enemies. So you learn to be smarter, General Wells nodded. We developed specialists, engineers who could build bridges under fire, medics who could save lives in impossible conditions, communications experts who could coordinate complex operations, and snipers who could eliminate key targets from extreme range. The display changed again, showing a detailed analysis of Lisa's performance in the recent exercises. What you demonstrated was not unusual human ability. It was the result of a specific training program that produces highly skilled marksmen. Lisa found her voice. Ma'am, I am not trying to hide anything. I just used the skills my mother taught me. And who was your mother? General Wells asked gently. Master Sergeant Helen Martinez, Terran Defense Force. The alien officers exchanged meaningful looks. Admiral Zorth made a note on his datapad. Master Sergeant Martinez holds the record for longest confirmed elimination shot in human military history, General Wells explained to the others. 1,800 meters. Single shot, moving target, hostile weather conditions. Commander Theiss whistled, a sound like wind through metal. That is beyond our weapon technology. It is beyond most weapon technology, General Wells agreed, which is why the shot was taken with a projectile rifle, not an energy weapon. Sometimes older methods work better than newer ones. Lisa was beginning to understand why she had been called to this meeting. The Academy instructors needed to comprehend what they were dealing with. The question now, Admiral Zorth said, is how to integrate this knowledge into our training programs. If humans can contribute specialized skills that complement our natural abilities, we need to understand how to use them effectively. Over the next hour, Lisa found herself explaining human military doctrine to some of the most senior officers in the Galactic Defense Force. She described how snipers worked with regular troops, providing overwatch and eliminating high-value targets. She explained how human teams were organized to support different specializations. So a human sniper does not work alone, Commander Theiss observed. They are part of a larger system. Exactly, Lisa confirmed. A sniper team usually includes a spotter, communication support, and security elements. Everyone has a role to play. This could work well with mixed species teams, Admiral Zorth mused. Draknari strength for security, Zephyrian speed for reconnaissance, Vorthak durability for communications equipment. General Wells stood up. We are going to implement a new training program. Mixed species teams with specialized roles based on each species' strengths. Martinez, you will help design the sniper training component. Ma'am, I am just a cadet. You are a cadet who has been trained by one of the best snipers in human history. You understand both the technical skills and the tactical applications. That makes you qualified to teach. The meeting ended with Lisa being assigned to work with the Academy's curriculum development team. She would help create training programs that taught alien cadets not just how to shoot accurately, but how to think like snipers. That afternoon, she found herself in a classroom with 20 volunteer students from various species. Vex was there along with Kara the Zephyrian and several others who had witnessed her demonstration. The first thing you must understand, Lisa began, is that sniping is not about the shot. It is about everything that happens before the shot. She activated a tactical display showing a complex battlefield scenario. A sniper spends hours studying the target area. Weather conditions, wind patterns, enemy movement, escape routes. The actual shooting is the easiest part. Vex raised his hand. How do you calculate all those variables so quickly? You do not calculate them quickly. You calculate them slowly and carefully, long before you need to shoot. Then when the moment comes, you are ready. Lisa spent the next 2 hours teaching the basic principles of precision shooting. Not the physical techniques, those would come later, but the mental discipline required. Patience, observation, and the ability to wait for the perfect moment. As the class ended, Kara approached her. This is very different from Zephyrian combat doctrine. We are taught to act quickly, strike fast. Both approaches have their place, Lisa replied. Sometimes you need speed. Sometimes you need precision. The best teams use both. Vex lingered after the other students left. Martinez, I owe you an apology. When I called your methods primitive, I was showing my own ignorance. Lisa looked at the massive Draknari warrior. A week ago, he had dismissed her as weak and useless. Now he was acknowledging that her skills had value. No apology needed, she said. We all have things to learn from each other. Will you teach me to see the battlefield the way you do? Vex asked. Not just the shooting, but the thinking behind it. Lisa smiled. If you are willing to start at the beginning, real marksmanship begins with learning to be still. As they left the classroom together, Lisa realized that something important had changed at the academy. The barriers between species were beginning to break down, replaced by mutual respect and curiosity about different approaches to common problems. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Teaching aliens to think like human snipers, while learning from them about strength, speed, and energy control. It would not be easy, but Lisa was beginning to understand that the most valuable lessons never were. 6 months had passed since Lisa's demonstration changed everything at the academy. The training programs had been completely redesigned around mixed species cooperation and specialized roles. What had once been classes divided by species were now integrated teams that combined different strengths. Lisa walked through the academy grounds, now wearing the silver stripes of a junior instructor. At 19 years old, she was the youngest instructor in academy history, but her expertise in precision combat had earned her the position. Students from all species sought her training, and the waiting list for her classes was always full. Near the main training building, she watched a group of first-year cadets working through a basic marksmanship exercise. A young Draknari named Rex held his rifle in the modified stance Lisa had developed for his species. His large hands and powerful frame required different techniques than human anatomy, but the principles remained the same. Breathe slowly, Lisa called to him. Let your natural rhythm find the shot. Rex fired, and his target showed a perfect center hit at 300 meters. 6 months ago, most Draknari considered anything beyond 50 meters to be long range. Now they routinely engaged targets at distances their ancestors would have thought impossible. Nearby, a Zephyrian cadet named Swift practiced the aerial precision shooting techniques that Lisa and Amy Chen had developed together. The flying aliens could now provide sniper support from angles no ground-based shooter could achieve. Their natural speed, combined with human patience and precision, created entirely new tactical possibilities. Even the Vorthak had adapted the training. Their massive crystal bodies could absorb recoil that would knock down smaller beings, allowing them to use incredibly powerful precision weapons. Gornax had become an expert with anti-vehicle sniping systems, able to disable enemy armor from ranges that seemed impossible. But today was special. Commander Stevens had called Lisa to his office with news that would test everything they had built. We have a real situation, Stevens said as Lisa entered his office. Not a training exercise. A civilian research station in the Kepler system has been taken by pirates. They have 43 hostages and are demanding ransom. Lisa sat down, immediately shifting into the focused mindset her mother had taught her. What is the tactical situation? The station is in deep space, no planetary support nearby. The pirates are well armed and have established strong defensive positions. They know military forces are coming, so they are ready for a conventional assault. Stevens activated a holographic display showing the research station. It was a large facility with multiple modules connected by enclosed walkways. 3 previous rescue attempts by single-species teams have failed. The Draknari assault was repelled with heavy casualties. The Zephyrian speed attack was anticipated and countered. The Vorthak siege approach gave the pirates time to threaten the hostages. Lisa studied the station layout, automatically identifying sight lines, cover positions, and approach routes. What assets are available? That is the interesting part. High Command is sending a mixed species team using the new integrated tactics. Your tactics? Stevens looked at her seriously. They want you to lead the precision support element. For a moment, Lisa felt overwhelmed. Leading a training exercise was very different from a real combat mission where lives were at stake. But then she remembered her mother's words. Every shot should count, but the most important thing is knowing when not to shoot. Who else is on the team? Stevens smiled. People you know well. Vex Thornscale will lead the assault element. Kara will handle aerial reconnaissance and support. Gornax will provide heavy support and breaching capability. Amy Chen will coordinate drone operations, and Bobby Kim will handle technical systems. Lisa nodded slowly. It was a team built on friendship and mutual respect, forged through months of training together. They understood each other's capabilities and limitations. When do we leave? 2 hours. The transport ship is already prepared. The flight to the Kepler system took 18 hours. Lisa used the time to study the station blueprints and plan their approach. The pirates had chosen their position well. The station's design made conventional assault extremely difficult. But they had not expected to face the new integrated tactics. As they approached the station, Kara launched her reconnaissance drones. The small devices, nearly invisible against the star field, provided detailed information about enemy positions and hostage locations. 12 pirates confirmed, Kara reported. They have established firing positions covering all docking ports. Heavy weapons at key choke points. Hostages are being held in the central habitat module. Lisa studied the reconnaissance data. The pirates were prepared for direct assault, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had positioned their leaders where they could oversee the entire station, which meant they were visible from outside. Through the observation windows, I can eliminate their command structure from here, Lisa said, indicating a position on the ship that would give her clear shots at the leadership positions. Range to target? Vex asked. 1,200 meters, through reinforced windows, in zero-gravity conditions. Even after months of training together, the alien team members still found Lisa's capabilities hard to believe. 1,200 meters was beyond the effective range of most military weapons. Are you certain? Gornax rumbled. Lisa checked her rifle one final time. It was a custom precision weapon built specifically for her by the Academy's technical department. I am certain. The assault began with Lisa's precision strikes. Her first shot took out the pirate leader who was coordinating their defenses. Her second eliminated the weapons specialist who controlled their heavy guns. Her third shot disabled the communications array that allowed them to coordinate between different parts of the station. Within 3 minutes, the organized pirate defense had collapsed into confusion and panic. They knew they were under attack, but they could not figure out how their leaders were being eliminated through solid walls. Vex led his assault team through the station's service airlocks, using routes that the confused pirates had left unguarded. Gornax breached the heavy barriers that blocked access to the habitat modules. Kara's drones provided real-time intelligence about enemy movements. The entire rescue operation took less than 20 minutes. All hostages were recovered safely, and most of the pirates were captured alive. The few who tried to fight were quickly overwhelmed by the coordinated team assault. As they returned to the academy with the rescued civilians, Lisa reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, she had been a lonely cadet sitting by herself in the dining hall. Now she was part of a team that had just completed one of the most successful hostage rescue operations in Galactic Defense Force history. The Academy held a formal ceremony to recognize the team's success. General Wells presented each team member with the Star of Valor, the Defense Force's highest decoration for heroism. But for Lisa, the real reward was seeing how the mixed species teams were now being deployed throughout the galaxy. Commander Stevens found her after the ceremony, standing alone on the Academy's observation deck. The twin suns of Arcturus Prime were setting, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Thinking about home? He asked. Thinking about my mother, Lisa replied. She always said that the best weapon was one you never had to use. But if you did use it, make sure it counted. I think she would be proud of what you have accomplished here. Lisa smiled. She would probably say I still have a lot to learn. Stevens chuckled. Masters always do. But you have taught us something important. Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes the quietest voice has the most impact. As the months passed, Lisa's training methods spread throughout the Galactic Defense Force. Mixed species teams became the standard, with each species contributing their natural advantages to create something greater than the sum of their parts. A year later, the Academy installed a memorial plaque in the main training building. It read, "In honor of those who serve from the shadows, whose vigilance protects the innocent and whose precision turns the tide of battle. To the snipers of all species, the watchers on the wall." Lisa stood before the memorial with Vex, Kara, Gornax, and the others who had become her closest friends. They wore the uniforms of instructors now, teaching the next generation of cadets how to work together despite their differences. Only snipers, Vex said quietly, reading the inscription. Lisa nodded. Only snipers understand that sometimes the most important shot is the one you choose not to take. As they walked back to their classes, Lisa thought about all the young cadets who were just beginning their training. Alien students learning human patience, human students learning alien strength, all of them discovering that the greatest victories came not from proving superiority over others, but from finding ways to make each other stronger. The Academy had changed, but more importantly, so had the galaxy. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion and competition now worked as partners. The barriers between different worlds were falling, replaced by bonds forged in training and tested in combat. Lisa's rifle still hung in her quarters, clean and ready. But these days she found that her most powerful weapon was something her mother had never taught her directly: the ability to help others find their own.